Hello, and we're back. It is COMP229, and we are, it's the fall 2016 semester here, Centennial. We're week 9, part 1 of our broadcast. I wanted to talk about a couple things with you watching remotely today. We're going to be talking about assignment number 2, which is out now, as well as lab 3. We'll talk about those things. Let's talk about assignment 2 first. Of what we're talking about today. Assignment 2, and then we'll actually talk about the next 3 weeks. Actually, let's talk about the next few weeks. 9, if you can look at my folder structure for a second, where we're doing MVC views, assignment 2 and lab 3. We're going to do MVC models, right? So we're going to hit, so basically we've covered then model, view, and controller each week, which is just to let you know what we're doing, right? And then we're going to get into MVC security, which is very similar to what we did with web form security, just on the MVC side. Building that MVC music store as we go forward. We're moving forward to building those things, right? So week 11, you'll be getting project 2 in its entirety, where you'll have 1, 2, 3 weeks to actually complete it with you and your partners. Week 12, I've kind of built in a single page application. I want to try and do that with you guys, maybe using Angular with a web API on the back end, right? So that I can do that. We'll see if we can do that by week 12. I told you before, I'm going to make it a workshop week for you guys. There will be no lecture that day, week 13. And what I'll be doing with that is I'll let you guys get together with your teams, right, to work on your projects. So we'll have it as a project week. The lab here, if you want to come here locally, if you want to work remotely, you can do that. Milestone due. Each of these weeks, for example, when you get your project due, milestone 1 will be due week 12, milestone 2 will be week 13, and milestone 3, the final week milestone, will be due week 14. And then we'll have a small, and I really mean it, a small final exam, 15%, again, which is practical only for the next few weeks. That's the remainder of the semester, right? So that you guys know what you're doing, right? Talk about assignment 2, and we'll talk about lab 3 today, okay? So what is assignment 2? Remember I talked about this last week where we're doing a restaurant, right? So it's kind of like a fantasy restaurant. That's the way I look at it. I'm going to bring this so you guys can see this a little bigger. There it is. So again, working alone with a partner. If you want to, you can work with alone. I don't recommend it. Fantasy restaurant site using ASP.NET MVC, right? Menu page that lists the food menu items arranged by food item type. Example, appetizer, main course, desserts, beverages, and whatever. Each menu item, and I kind of talked to you about this last week, so you guys should already have ideas of what you're building, right? Because I talked about it already. Each menu item that is displayed will include a thumbnail image of what the menu item is. For example, if you're buying a hamburger on the menu, it might be a small image of the hamburger on the menu, right? And then a short description, hamburger, right? You know, fresh and juicy. I don't know, like a little description, liner, right? Or our classic burger at a great price. You know, something like that, like a one-liner that kind of talks about what the item that you're buying is, right? The price, whatever the price is. So if the burger is nice and juicy and beautiful, and it's going to cost you $13. I'm putting a number to it, by the way. For example, at the Firkin pubs, I'm going to bring up some websites for you guys so we can compare. Let's take a look at the Firkin pubs. Firkin, something like that. You might have a firkinpubs.com, right? So here's their website. A group of restaurants that exist in Toronto, for those people who don't know, where they sell beers and all kinds of stuff. They all have nice burgers, right? The menu is kind of, it looks like this. This is their Firkin burger, right? And which I nicely love to eat, even though it's terrible for me, right? Because it's like really fat, right? If you wanna get fat, eat a lot of these, right? Right? And the beer is great, right? If you look at their menu, and I don't know if they have their menu online here, but you can see that you know, they have specials, So for example, here's their Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday specials, that kind of stuff. But if I click on brews, bevies, and bites, right, you can see that about what they have per week. I'm not really looking for this, but this is the place that I'm talking about where they sell like $13 burgers, right? But what about other things? Like, what if you want to have, I don't know, you're a sushi person, right? And or maybe you want to, you want to sell pizza in your store, right? So here's pizza, and I can look at a site that exists today to steal some of their images. Well, sorry, borrow is the right word. I expect you to make any of your images on your own. If you really want to, Hina's homemade, kitchen, right? As an example, I'm just saying. I'm putting it on thing too. Well, so when I say Toronto, it was Toronto already. What happened, right? There's Toronto, and continue. If we do that, and if you look at their menu, right, you can see that the pizzas here. Now this is a different kind of menu that I'm looking for. I'm trying to look for a menu that has like a big list. Maybe Zizi's. Zizi's restaurant. Here we go. See, they have there. It's Zizi's Victoria. It's one of my favorite restaurants in Vaughan. If you guys have a chance to go out there, it's an Italian restaurant. Very good cuisine. They have a menu. Now their menu is like this, right? This is what like a real menu would look like. Look like this. I mean, you can make a list like this where it says starters and your items if you really want to. All I'm looking for is when you click menu, it'll show these items in a list. Okay? It could be a menu list page, right? That's fine too, because MVC does lists fantastic, right? Notice how they have a nice background in the background to make it look like it's a restaurant. Okay? Don't use, if you're going to use Font Awesome, right? If you're going to use that, try and do it sparingly. Like, this is a restaurant. Make sure that maybe you don't want to use Font Awesome for this one. Maybe you want to use other images here at the top. Notice that they have a different kind of navigation system here. For example, starters, let's say we're going to get calamari for $13, right? I know it's like it's cheap, right? Let's keep going. And you can also book online reservations and all kinds of other stuff. Again, by the way, this one thing that you don't notice here is that this menu is actually not just starters. Problem with this menu, I think you can pull it down, or you can go to the next one if you go through here. It's not just starters. So here it is. This is actually navigation for the menu. Soups, right? Antipasta. I would never have guessed it. When I first went to this website, I was like, and I was talking to the owner. I was like, yeah, I didn't know where to go to find your stuff. Here's your entrees. They're beautiful entrees, by the way, and they always have a special every week, but they're very expensive, right? So, like, this is like shrimp and calamari, right? In our seasoned batter. I'm getting hungry just looking at it, right? For $21, right? I'm just saying. So what I'm saying is, I want you to make your fantasy restaurant the one that you want. Now this one doesn't exactly do what I want, right? Because there's no image of the food, something out there. Like also like sushi. So I don't know, this place that's in there next to my house, Wakame Sushi. By the way, I don't work for them. I'm not endorsing them or anything like that. None of these restaurants. I'm just telling you, these are some sites. You guys should look at some sites, right? So here's the menu. Notice these guys have little categories. So for example, soups and salads, they have a thing for soups and salads. And if you click on soups and salads, they give you an example of what it looks like, right? And this is a standard all-you-can-eat sushi place, right? Like, $1.15, you get a miso soup, all right? Which is like, I always look at the miso soup of healing. It's like miso soup is something you can have after like a nightclub, right? That makes you feel good. I'm joking. This is like going back 25 years. Okay, is that when you pick your fantasy restaurant, each of these items should have an image next to it. This one doesn't really have it, and there's a reason for this, by the way, because what if for your final project, and this is what I told you guys last week, you want to use complex restaurant where if I click on one of these images, I'm going to get the details, right? And I can actually order it online. Next step for project. Some people use that with me when we did this. I don't need it organized like this. If you want to organize it in one big list where you separate it by headers, menu, like your soups and salads, your entrees, and so on, it's up to you how you organize it, but it's got to be a menu list. So that's what the menu page will look like. Each menu item that is displayed will include a thumbnail and all this kind of stuff. Users should be able to click on any menu item to get a detailed description. So if I click on the item, so I can take to like Mr. Greek. Let's go Mr. Greek. Mr. Greek website. Here's Mr. Greek. At least one Greek restaurant. Come on, right? It's not fair. To menus, right, here we go. And they tell you which location is it. You can get a menu. I guess each location is different for different locations. So let's go. This is Mr. Greek Mediterranean Bar and Grill. Here's actual Mr. Greek. Let's do one in Toronto. That one. And then now these menus look to be PDFs. This is not good. I want a menu that actually, I can show you something that makes sense. But let's take a look at this dine-in and takeout menu. Looks like. So everyone should know what a menu looks like. All right, it's a little busy to me, right? I mean, it's nice. It looks like Greek food on the side or whatever. A good page. If you were a Greek restaurant and you made this the background of your page, it might be okay. Do you know what I'm saying? But I would have liked more images of each of the meals. Also have this is better. By the way, Yaya in Greek is grandmother for those people who care, right? Yaya's bakery is grandmother's bakery. Here's an example of what I'm looking for. So imagine if you have, which is spinach pie, and then a little, kind of a smaller, maybe something like this, 515. When you click on the image, it gives you the big image with more details, maybe a nutritional menu of whatever things you have in there, right? Looking for, right? But imagine in a list of stuff that you would have, right? Okay, back there. So, so again, you should be able to click on menu items to get a detailed description and a larger image. And I say high res, so I want the image to be pretty much the full page. All right, the high res image of whatever food you're looking at. Okay. So what's the price, right? So when I say detailed description, give me more meat. Don't just give me a one-liner that says our finest burger. Our finest burger, and you can pick up some of this content somewhere else. It doesn't have to be your words, okay? All I want you to do is fantasy restaurant from a different restaurant. Like, I want to eat it. All right, I want to eat this. When I go to, I want to eat at your restaurant. If I don't feel like I'm going to eat at your restaurant, something's wrong. The restaurant site looks like a plate, it's wrong. Okay, it's got to look like a restaurant site. So that's why you and your partner can make it look good. Some people ask me today, can I work on my own? Sure, work on your own, but this is something I'm looking at to make it look like a restaurant. To work together to do that. It might mean some, oh my God, CSS. It could even mean a little bit of styling, maybe even getting some pictures together, but that's what I'm looking for. Okay, images and content from existing restaurants to create your site. Please provide credit in your internal documentation. What is internal documentation? Some people are confused about this when I was marking some stuff today. Documentation. Thank God, someone said it. Comments. Some sites have 0 comments on their stuff. We're using stuff. I'm not asking you for a lot of things here. I'm not asking you for an external document yet, right? Look at this. So details. Your restaurant will use ASP.MVC. No, you cannot use PHP, and you can't use Node.js, and you can't use anything else. You have to use ASP.NET MVC. Please don't ask me again, right? People have been asking me, can I use C++ to make? No, you cannot. I don't know why you're doing with C++, using web pages. And no, you can't use Django or WordPress on Rails or any other kind of system. You need to use ASP.NET MVC from Microsoft with C#, okay? That's what you need to use. Whew. Your restaurant or your site will use one or more layout pages. It doesn't have to use more than one. You can just use one if you really want to, but sometimes it makes sense to make different layout pages for different types of pages you're going to be on. Common nav bar, right? Whatever you do, okay? Your site should include at least one layout page. Your layout page should include a common nav bar. Any page should include several images of your fantasy restaurant. It's got to look like a restaurant, all right? It's got to be images, like I showed you with ZZ, right? Let's go back to that ZZ site. Well, here's Mr. Greek. If I go to home, right? It looks like Mr. Greek. right? You can order online, right? Here's a story, a little bit about them, whatever. And let's see if I can go back to ZZ's, if I'm allowed to do that with this craziness. If I come back, no, I cannot. Oh, there's wakame, or here's wakame sushi. Wakame sushi looks like, if I go back to the original one, it might even look place, right? Now this is actually what they look like. If you actually go to the location, this is what they just take a picture of their place, right? Which is okay. It's not amazing, this site, but the great thing about it is it kind of what the restaurant part is. You can look at an image gallery, I'm sure. Good. See if the gallery works. There we go. And here's what the sushi bar would look like. By the way, none of it looks like this, right? At the restaurant. This is nice, but they've just taken stock images and put it here on their website, right? And it's perfectly fine for you guys. If you put stock images, they did it. They have a successful restaurant. It's quite busy, actually. Anyways, something to look like what your restaurant looks like. That's the first thing. Next, that's your home page, where you list all your food items. The list is displayed in an appropriately styled tabular format. That means rows and columns. That's what I want. Make it so that it looks like a table. Dress it up. Make it look like a menu. All right? That's what I want. That's what it should look like. All right? Each row of the menu item list will display a thumbnail that represents the food menu item, a short description, and a price. Don't put, and then next to it, a short description, like literally a short description. Someone did that one time. Because they kind of took it literally. Like I said, I want them to each to say, here's a short description, and they wrote the words "a short description," right? That's really bad. And then they went to the main page, and it was a long description, and that's what it said. Use lorem ipsum, okay? Don't use you got enough stuff from the restaurants, so you can actually put some details in there if you really want to. So that's the menu page, right? Now it links, when you click on a menu item, it links to the menu, okay, menu item details page, which is another page, right? Have a menu items detail page as part of your nav bar, because you can only get to that page from your menu item. You click on the menu item, it takes you to the menu item details page. Otherwise, you can't get to it. When you go there, it's going to give you details on an item. So that means the only way you can get there is from the menu item that you clicked. It includes a full-size image of the menu item, longer description. Please don't put a long description. And then the price of the item. A back button or other controls should be able to, should be included to take the user back to the menu page, right? Your fantasy restaurant's contact page should include contact details for the restaurant, including restaurant name, address, phone number. Okay, if you have this fantasy restaurant somewhere in Toronto, pick a street in Toronto, reasonable. Toronto, don't pick the 401, okay? And put the restaurant there. In addition, the contact page should include a keep connected section, similar to what you did on your portfolio site, right? With some site that displays some social icons. The social icons do not have to work, okay? Please don't make them work. Want to. Okay, cool. And then connect the users to popular sites. It would be nice. Look, it also says contain a map or image of the restaurant's location. I don't expect you to use a map, the Google Map SDK. I don't need you to do that, right? Just the snapshot. Figure out where you want your restaurant to be, not on the 401 or on the 400 or any 400 series highway, right? Someplace that's reasonable, not in the middle of a park, on a street somewhere. Love it. Include that in your restaurant site. Nice. All right. Scripts is like normal if you do things properly. By the way, people have lost marks for this, for their assignments, which doesn't make any sense to me, how they're following some kind of different way of making their assets and whatever. Maybe they're getting from somewhere else. Internal documentation, which means comments. Please read this. This is worth 4 marks. People forgot to do this altogether sometimes. Please don't use GitHub as just a backup, right? And don't leave it empty. Don't just give me a GitHub link with nothing inside of it, right? If it's nothing inside of it, you get 0. Doesn't matter if you made it. Marks for nothing, right? You got to do something with GitHub, like use it as you develop. That's what you're supposed to do with it. Loud and clear when we did our midterm. Some people never use GitHub, and I asked them to do GitHub on the midterm, and they're like, "What's GitHub?" We only had a lab. We only did like 2 assignments and stuff. But who cares what GitHub is? Cloud hosting. By now, everybody so far that I've looked at has Azure. And if you don't have Azure, put it up on the school server. Do something. Don't give me something that doesn't work. I've got stuff that, well, I don't have the school server, and I don't have Azure, and it doesn't work. Right? I can't mark something that I can't see. Right? And it has to be live. Right? So I would prefer Azure. It has to be Azure because you have a database that's tied into this puppy. Right? So you don't have to know how to make a database. This is what this whole thing is about, and that's why I'm getting you to do it with a partner, because there's many little things, steps to do this thing. Don't try and do this on your own. Avoid it. Optional site features, site security. Figure that out. Before I talk about site security, see if you can figure out how to make site security work. I'll give you 4 bonus points for initial, making it work. This ties into site security, where you kind of only allow an authenticated user to create, update, and delete food menu items, right? So actually create additional sections at your site to allow you to do this, only if you're authenticated, right? That's an additional 12 points, right? That's huge. But I will give it to you as a bonus, and for those people who want to challenge themselves, figure that out. 12 out of 54. That means you could get potentially 66 out of 54 for a bonus, right? Also, it gives you a good kickoff to what your site's going to do when you do your final project. It's going to be, I'm going to ask you for anyway, right? Now, I'm not going to talk about site security for a couple weeks, so you have to figure it out on your own. This is why it's a bonus. It's not going to kill you. I'm not going to take points away. It's not required. Use site security. Please do not include a link to log in. All right? Please do not leave the template that I can see. I don't want to know it's an MVC site. I want to know it's a website. If I see template stuff from the MVC template that you get from Microsoft, just letting you know, right? Make it look like it's your own site, like it's a true restaurant site. Work together with your partner to do this. Okay. Project files. Some people didn't give me this, all right? I'm asking for this time, just in case, for whatever reason, your GitHub link fails, right? Or Azure link fails, which has happened a lot too. So give me Azure link, but I can't give you the bonus points because I don't go to Azure anymore, right? Or I don't know, you had a trial and it expired somehow. Don't know how you do that. But anyways, that's not a bonus. Bonus is if it's Azure, it's there and it's working. Now notice it says including a SQL database, because I'm expecting for this assignment, this is like the 3rd one you've done now, that SQL should be working online. Can't work here locally. Machine in front of you, that you're logged into the wired machine. If you try to do this with your laptop, it will fail, right? To do Azure and SQL. Something you have to do either with a hotspot from here if you're going to work with your partner, or from home. Okay, you can't do it here unless you're wired in. You can also transfer your files to the local machine locally to work remotely. You don't have to use a hotspot in that case. Okay, so really that's your assignment number 2. Due in a couple of weeks. So you got 2 weeks to do this. I'm not going to check next week for how you're doing. I mean, I will go around and ask you to see some of your stuff. You should have it ready for me to look at, to let you know. I may or may not do a spot check. If you're here, I may go around and go, show me your site, check or X, right? Did you get it done? Have you started doing your restaurant yet? You and your partner should be well on your way by next week. If you wait till the last week, I will get the crappiest websites that I've ever seen in my life. I'll tell you right now, restaurants, especially since I've done lots of restaurant sites in my life, take a lot of effort to make it look right, okay? So please start early. Please start today if you can. Because if you haven't started already. On your restaurant fantasy site, which you can use for your final project as a kickoff point, if that's what you want to do with you and your partners. So let's say, for example, you want to use your restaurant site, and right now I'm asking for a very few things for your restaurant. I'll give you a preview, online only, right? For those people watching online, it's a bonus for people watching online, of what the final project is going to look like. Now, I haven't finished it off, the final version of the project, that I've been working on. I use it on another course, right? That I actually made it work nicely on a project, right? So here's your final team project. All right. So notice that the due dates are wrong because I have to update these. But this is what it would look like. Each part of the project has a little rubric, right? That's going to be due, right? And what are you building for this final project? Up to 4 members, or on your own if you're crazy, right? And utilizing your accumulated knowledge of ASP.NET MVC, create a mock e-commerce web application. That's what you're going to be doing for your final project. I'm not going to read the rest. It will mostly feature a catalog of items you'll be selling that share a common theme. Fantasy Restaurant from assignment 2 as a starting point for this project. You'll be required to create additional pages to support the application, such as the contact page, other pages used for product management. Okay, so I mean, you know, the better you do this one, the easier the final one is going to be. This one is really crappy, then the final one will probably be crappy too if you base it off of your fantasy restaurant. But what if you don't want to do a fantasy restaurant for your final project? You want to sell computers. I want to sell plushies of mass destruction, right? I want to sell whatever you want to sell, whatever you're thinking. It's all fantasy. It's not. We're not really selling anything. You can make whatever you want, what catalog of whatever interested items you're interested in, you and your team members, when you kind of come together, right? Lab 3, which is up online today, asks you for a couple of things. And let's go in there and see what Lab 3 does. And, you know, and I'll log in a second. Oh, I'm already in. If I go to this one, and if I go to Dropbox, and if you go to Lab 3, it's all team forming. It's supposed to be done today. Let's take a look at the stuff that we have here. Okay, it says it's handed out today. This is due by this Friday. Okay, pick your partner for assignment 2, right? Now, what if you don't have a partner for assignment 2, right? Working solo for assignment 2, right? If you really don't want to work with anybody, right? Highly don't recommend. But if that's what you want, you don't work with anybody because, you know, that just ends in catastrophe, right? All right. 2, pick your team name and team members for the final project. Your final project could be your fantasy restaurant, could be something you want to sell, like I said, like plushies of mass destruction, or something else, computer parts, or drones that humans can glide on. I don't know, make it up, right? But you have to get something, some images from these things because, right, you're going to get images and text and pricing and all that kind of stuff to make this catalog as real as possible, right? So it's almost like you're mocking up. Okay, so that's what you're going to be doing with your final project. That's why it's good to get a team name. So team, I don't know, extreme. You know, you're going to have a logo for your team and all that stuff. And then your team members, who are they? Figure that out by Friday. You together and figure out those things by Friday. So it doesn't have to be done today or Wednesday today, right? So upload a text file, Word file, or PDF document that lists your 2 and your team members for the final project, of course, and your team name. That would be nice. Okay, that's it for 2%. That's like free marks. Guarantee someone will not get this done, right? Or someone will not have a team, and they're going to put themselves on Slack and say, "I need a team." But you don't need a team. If you don't find a team, and do it on your own, right? Worst case scenario. This is not a hard one, and it can be done like today if you want to. Right now, and maybe you can even talk to each other. What was me? What a concept to talk instead of text, right? Or instead of using social media. Or maybe if your partner is here today, they are, and fix this. Get this done. It's like free marks. It's like silly, right? So that's why I want this done, because I want to know who you're working with, so that next week when I get together, I'm going to say, okay, so you and your team members should be sitting together, restaurant site so far by next week. If you think about it, you're going to pick some stuff, some images. You know, you may need to do some styling for your website, and that's it. And you're using MVC. You to do, you kind of already have everything you need from last week to do what I've asked you to do. If you think about it, with all the stuff you've accumulated from your, any kind of HTML5 and CSS3, all that stuff. If you think about what I showed you last week, you can make a list, right? We're going to do that today. When I demo it today again one more time, show you guys again. Video. That means that you don't know what you don't know what I'm talking about, right? But if you watch the video, then you'll know that you can make a list very quickly. I want to see some images, and of course, you need to link to a database. That's part of this whole process, right? You have to use Entity Framework to connect to the database. We talked about this all last week, right? How to make your models. What kind of database would I link to if I was going to make assignment 2? Like 5 tables, or 6, or 7, or 10 to kind of link together to create this crazy database? Hell no, it's worth 10% of your final mark. Are you crazy? Make it simple. Make a menu table, and that's it, right? Food items table, even better, right? Food items, each of the food items have a category. You can make a categories table, right? If you really want to go crazy. So say like category would be like entree, or category would be like side dish, or whatever you want to do, right? If you really want to go crazy, but you really don't have to. You can make it one big flat table. I'm okay with it. This is not a database course, all right? As long as it works, right? And then you got this database, and the database is going to have links to your images, because you can't show your images. You're not going to store your images on the database. Please don't do that. That's like crazy, right? That's like Trump talk, all right? That's crazy, right? I got to put it out there. I got to say Trump at least once in every conversation today because of yesterday's election, which was insane, right? Anyway, so, put your links to your images, and it have to work. They have to point to an actual location where your images are. They exist inside on your website. For example, I recommend assets, images. That's where you're going to put your images, right? Should all point to that, and all your assets should be inside the physical website, right? So then, when you put up your list, your asset, your thumbnail should pop up. That I recommend. Do a little bit of editing on your thumbnail. Make them all the same size, all right? Don't make it so that you steal images from other websites, and all of a sudden it's like one image is like massive. It takes up the entire page. The image is like micronized. It's like really small that I can hardly see it. The next image is like skewed this way because you didn't put it properly. You want to fit it inside your list item, right? You don't want to do that. You want to make it so that all the same size. Thumbnails mean squares size every single time, so it makes sense. Which means you have to do a little bit of photo editing. Oh my God, what a novel concept! You could use anything. You can use paint, fireworks. I've done fireworks a lot with you guys. You can use GIMP. You can use whatever you want, but make those images, cut them, crop them, do whatever you have to do, but make sure that it looks like. And don't be gross. Don't give me something that's not food that you say that it's a restaurant. I've got that too in the past. Be reasonable. Please be. I know, and people are going, "What is he talking about?" I got to put it out there because I get all kinds of submissions at sometimes, right? Cats was something that someone gave me. There was a restaurant, a cat eating restaurant. I got that one time. That was really gross. And you know what? Of course, I gave them 0, right? Because it's inappropriate. You're making a restaurant for a fantasy restaurant. Do that at home. Don't put it on your restaurant, your website, right? It doesn't make any sense. And it's really gross. So any questions about Lab 3 and your fantasy restaurant? I went over details like this because I want what I want. I don't want you to give me something I don't want. I will not pay you for me getting you like something else that I'm not looking for, right? This is like a real world scenario. I'm your client. I want a restaurant. To make your own fantasy restaurant, give me a restaurant. Don't give me a site that looks like it's a computer, right? Don't give me a template that has black and white, MVC5, right? Don't give me that. No questions. You guys are perfect again. I know it. And you guys are someone's going to give me the wrong thing. They're going to give me a computer with cats, right? And don't give me animated GIFs. I don't want that either, all right? No animated GIFs, right? That is a no-no. No animated GIFs, no sounds, all right? I don't want your restaurant website to look like it's from the 80s, all right? Okay? Sorry, I know I went on a bit of a rant there, but I couldn't help it because I've got really crazy stuff lately, like insane. Trump. It's Trump. I'm in an alternate reality. I'm in bizarro world, all right now. Okay, I stayed up until 2 o'clock in the morning. I've had very little sleep, and I'm really angry. Okay, guys, let's take a short break. And when I come back, I'll have a little bit of water in me and be able to talk and breathe and be normal. Okay?